Today, let's continue our review of the 22 heads of Upchurch clans in America. Today, let's talk about John Upchurch III. He was born in 1741 in Brunswick County, Virginia, and he died in Chatham County, North Carolina in 1795 at age 54. He was head of clan number 14, and I'm intrigued by John for several reasons. One is that he grew up about 10 miles west of where I was born and raised in Wake County, North Carolina, even though he was just across the line in Chatham County. Another intriguing aspect to me is that my great-grandfather married one of his daughters, uniting two of the Upchurch clans. Now that is not unheard of in Upchurch history, but it is fairly unusual, and I'll have more to say about that later. In order to see exactly where John Upchurch III fits into the family, let's look at our 5-generation chart. And you see we descend from Michael to Richard to John Upchurch I and to James Upchurch III, and then to John Upchurch III, who is the person we talk about today. What do we know about this individual? Let's take his military service first. He served in the French and Indian Wars as he was in the Virginia militia in 1758. Now, whether or not he ever served in the Revolution and whether or not his descendants can claim to be SAR or DAR members, I don't know. He would have been about age 35 at the time of the Revolution. You will note from the chart here that he had 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. We note that he has 5 children. Now, of these 5 children who were siblings, John Upchurch III and his 4 siblings, the 3 males definitely left Brunswick County, Virginia, and moved to North Carolina. Now, about the 2 girls, Edith and Selah, we'll have to return to them again later and study them in more detail. Let's have a look at the Brunswick County, Virginia map again, but this time designed in a very particular way, and you will see here I've highlighted a section of Brunswick County, Virginia. Note that the Brunswick County, Virginia is bordered on the north by a stream and on the south by North Carolina. And in the southeastern part of the state, we have a highlighted area, which is where the Upchurches probably lived, at least this batch of the Upchurches. There are several reasons I color this area between Meharin Creek and Fontaine Creek as being Upchurch country. This is an area that's probably now only about 5 to 8 miles wide, so we've got a fairly narrow area in which to search for more details about exactly where this batch of Upchurches lived. I'll mention a couple of place names which we can use as reference as we go into this deeper and study this family more. They were on Quarles Swamp, they were on White Oak Creek, they were on Westwood Road, and if we look more carefully at the records, we will see quite a few names of neighbors that we've identified. And so in some cases, if we know that where the neighbor's land was, we know where our Upchurches lived. A particularly important thing about this area is that there were several pieces of land owned by James Upchurch III, the father of John Upchurch III. And in particular, John Upchurch III's father gave him 200 acres of land in his will when he died in 1784. He also gave 57 acres to James Upchurch III, grandson of John Upchurch. So the important thing about this is that these same pieces of land surface again after John Upchurch III has moved from Brunswick County, Virginia to Chatham County, North Carolina. He sold this land along about 1788, indicating that he planned to move from Brunswick County, Virginia. And by virtue of the fact of having this record in Chatham County of selling the same acreages of land in Brunswick County, we know that we tie these parts of the family together. John Upchurch III married Ann Hamilton, who was a daughter of Joseph Hamilton. It is our understanding that all of the children of John Upchurch III would have been born in North Carolina. Let's take a look at one of the maps of North Carolina where we see the place where I have researched and located the property of John Upchurch III and his sons. You notice this is on the border of Chatham and Wake County in North Carolina, and the blue shows Shattuck's Creek. I would like to cite the fact that in 1987 I researched in detail the various pieces of land that John Upchurch III and his son owned. And it's in the April 1987 issue of the Upchurch Bulletin, and we'll have a closer look at these particular pages, which show several tracts of land I was able to locate and pinpoint pretty much exactly as to where they lived. Now, if we go beyond this Shattuck's Creek area, we can look at in part of central North Carolina where enclaves were established. And this particular map is one we used earlier to show where Upchurch families lived as of the time of the 1790 census. Now, you will notice on this particular map on the border of Wake and Chatham County, there are two colored areas. One is in green and one is in yellow. Now, the yellow area is the one where John Upchurch III settled, and his land was just over the line in Chatham County. If you go up the county line between Chatham and Wake about 5 miles, you come to another enclave established by two other heads of Upchurch clans, namely Nathan Upchurch, my ancestor, and his brother Moses. Moses settled just over in Chatham and Wake, and Nathan settled just inside Wake. Now, here's a situation in which you have two clans that are living fairly close together, and you could say, well, maybe they never got to know each other. But the fact is, there's a record that in 1818, an Elizabeth Upchurch married a Gilbert Upchurch. Now, the fact is, this Gilbert Upchurch came from the Green area. He was a son of Nathan Upchurch. He's my great-grandfather. And this Elizabeth Upchurch, the only person that existed in the community at that time to fit that description had to be a daughter of John Upchurch III. Now, an interesting thing about this is that that marriage didn't last long, but it produced one child, Maria Elizabeth Upchurch. And it so happened that my great aunt Maria lived in my grandfather's home all her life, and she's buried in a small cemetery at Inwood Church in Swift Creek Township in Wake County, North Carolina, where my parents and grandparents and cousins by the dozen are all buried. So here's a unique situation, and you can see why it piqued my interest. Well, there were other daughters. I figure there were 5 daughters of John Upchurch III. Now, we don't know a lot about them. I'll list what we do know. There was Elizabeth, who married my great-grandfather. There was Tobias, who married in 1786 Green Rogers. There was a Lucy, a Nancy, and a Celine. Now, they had 3 brothers, and I've been able to research them in great detail and to show what happened to them. I'll tell you just a little bit about them. But the girls are sort of shadowy. Elizabeth Upchurch, I think, probably died young, because I don't know why else my grandfather would then have great-grandfather would then have gone on to marry another person by the name of Lucretia Mills and produce a number of children, one of whom was my grandfather. So presumably Elizabeth must have died about 1820. The other girls I don't know, and that's a fertile field for research. I suspect they stayed right there in North Carolina, although you can't rule out the possibility that they would have moved with their three brothers. Now, the three brothers were Samuel, Stephen, and John Upchurch VII. And I have great volumes of information about all three of these. Samuel moved west to Tennessee for a short time, and then he moved to Gallatin and Saline County, Illinois. And it's been my great pleasure to visit Saline County, Illinois, and to look at the cemeteries where his descendants are buried. I've had over the many years a great collaborator in Richard Dean Upchurch, who lives in the general area of Seattle, Washington. He's a great collaborator and has been very helpful in surfacing information about his ancestor Samuel, who was a very prominent and productive citizen in southern Illinois. Now, with regard to Stephen, he ended up settling in Wilson and Rutherford County, Tennessee. And I had a wonderful collaborator by the name of Billy Upchurch Purdom. She was a female, and she was a jolly person. I never met her, but I corresponded with her a great deal. She and her husband never had any children, but she was entranced by Upchurch history. As a matter of fact, in her will, she left $10,000 to be devoted to the Upchurch family in England. And the executor, her lawyer, contacted me, and it was up to me to explain to him just what she might have had in mind. And in fact, that money eventually was used to put a new window in Little Gidding Church in England. Now, unfortunately, that's not the church we would have selected later on, because we knew more later on. But I'm always indebted to cousin Billy Upchurch Purdom for intense work in Rutherford County, North Carolina, on the Upchurches. And I'd love to go there and see her gravesite and to see what evidence we have of other relatives in that area. Now, the third son was John Upchurch VII. And it is a very tricky business to know for sure that he was the third son. What we have is a simple record that in 1815 in Chatham County, North Carolina, a John Upchurch married a Happy Shaw. Now, what we find is a short time later, there is a Happy Upchurch in Wilkes County, North Carolina, and there a number of children were produced that had come from this marriage. And this was the second batch of Upchurches who had lived in Wilkes County, North Carolina. We had earlier talked about another clan head who had lived there, William Upchurch IV, and had died there in 1787. His family soon left the area. Some of them may have stayed in nearby counties, but in general they seemed to leave Wilkes County, leaving it to the descendants of John Upchurch VII. I had a wonderful collaborator by the name of Elizabeth Templeton, who corresponded with me extensively about this family. And in the beginning, she could not figure out who her ancestor was or how he linked back into earlier generations. But with her intensive input and many records that she supplied me, I was eventually able to conclude with reasonable certainty that John Upchurch III, who was the father of all of these children in Wilkes County, North Carolina, was in fact the son of John Upchurch III of Chatham County. It's been a pleasure for me to tell you a little bit about John Upchurch III. As you can remember, a person that interests me a great deal because of specialized circumstances. We'll tell you more about other clan heads in due course.